the blazing sun which beat down into the faces and upon the heads of the suffering captives with a torrid intensity that was alone almost enough to destroy life.
If you were in the Ninth Minnesota and were captured at Bryce's Crossroads, you had a 60% chance of dying. And you actually were safer if you were in the 1st Minnesota Gettysburg, and you would have been in the prison camps with the Ninth Minnesota. So it was very, very deadly.
In the entire Union Army, a man had about a 2-to-1 chance of dying of disease as being killed in a battle.
24,000 Minnesota men served in the Union Army, about an eighth of the state's growing population. While more than 650 Minnesota soldiers were killed in action, nearly 2.5 times that many died from illness and disease.
And a lot of these young men had grown up at isolated pioneer farms around Minnesota or elsewhere in the Midwest, and suddenly they're in confined barracks, limited ventilation with men from all over. There was not a lot of thought given to proper drainage in camps, so diseases spread like wildfire.
In the summer of 1864, more than 100 new recruits and draftees with the 3rd Minnesota died of malaria in the span of just a few months.
When we do get sick, we are sent to the General Hospital, which is about as sure a road to the grave as one can travel.
The men of the 6th Minnesota, camped near the swamps of Helena, Arkansas, were also plagued by illness. At any given time, more than 3/4 of the regiment was sick. Some 200 died. There were barely enough survivors to bury the dead.
My own great-great-grandfather had been stationed there for about 1.5 years. 2/3 of the time he was there, he was in the hospital, like many of the other men in Union Army regiments there.
Soldiers in camp also suffered long periods of boredom, interrupted by extraordinary challenges. Members of one Minnesota regiment risked their own freedom for a family of slaves.
Ninth Minnesota was a regiment that went down to Missouri in 1863, and that's where they did this remarkable thing where 38 of the soldiers saved a family of slaves.
Missouri was a border state, a slave state still loyal to the Union. That put Union soldiers in the odd position of maintaining slavery.
And the slave escaped when he found out that his master was going to take him and his family to Kentucky and sell them. And he ran to the nearest Union camp, and it turned out to be a camp run by the Ninth Minnesota. He had the courage to go and ask strangers for help. He had moved those 38 men to go and stop the train and hold it at gunpoint and free the family. He was able to reach them on a personal level, save my family, and they did. And they were arrested for mutiny, as they had direct orders not to do this. They were sort of let go because nobody really wanted to try these people in any kind of a, public setting. And it's been not really remembered until when I was doing research, I found out my great-great-uncle was one of the 38 soldiers.
Those 38 soldiers returned to the regiment only to find themselves in the thick of the fight at Bryce's Crossroads in June 1864.
Several were wounded and 8 or 9 were captured. And several of them died as POWs at Andersonville and other places.
Andersonville was an overcrowded Confederate prison in Georgia, where Union captives suffered horrendous conditions.
The prisoners were greatly demoralized and hardened, each caring for no one but himself. Many, even when well, would be disheartened and resolved to die, and they generally would.
If you were in Andersonville, you had no shelter other than what you could make yourself in the mud or whatever wood you could scrounge. The food was just absolutely terrible. The heat was terrible, the smell was terrible, there was no way to wash. It was like hell on earth.
By war's end, 84 Minnesotans were among the 12,900 soldiers who died at Andersonville.
The rebels didn't mean to kill you, they just didn't work very hard not to.
Today, the Andersonville site is one of 14 national cemeteries and is home to the National Prisoner of War Museum. Opened in 1998 and operated by the National Park Service, the museum tells the story of prisoners of war throughout American history.
It's an extremely emotional place to be. They have a cemetery with over 12,000 men who died in Andersonville are buried there, and they have the hillside where they had the huge stockade. It's very emotional to see that. You just realize what happened there. It's almost like going to a concentration camp.